Okay, how's it going, everybody? Brycej here as usual, and today I have with me Cleavetoantiquity. He is a well-known former Protestant apologist that sometimes was given a lot of the apostolic Christians some mad shubahat in the past there with some of his argumentation, but now it seems like he has found the glory of God, which is absolutely fantastic. How you doing, man?
Yeah, pretty good, man. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't normally do things like this, so this isn't going to be probably as formal as your other ones are, but I did want to have that conversation with you because you're a little bit more inspiring, at least to what I normally see for people converting from, at least in a standard way. Because most of the time, the people that are converting are people that kind of just like, they were kind of casual. They're looking into Christianity, and then glory to God, they found Orthodoxy. Boom, right? Too easy. But you were like really, really grounded in Protestantism, weren't you? Like you were really into it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was doing Protestant apologetics for a while. I had run probably it was the largest at the time. It was the largest Protestant Discord server called Scripture Alone. I'd run that with Dr. Reverend Mike, who was a Nazarene minister. We did that. We did debates on that platform for a long time, and then I came over onto YouTube in the last year. But yeah, I mean, I was pretty rooted in Protestant theology, and kind of my whole shtick was debating Roman Catholics and Orthodox. So
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah, I actually
interesting
remember
journey.
to this day. I remember to this day one of the videos that I remember that I think you made back when you were doing that stuff that actually kind of messed with me a little bit in my Orthodox apologetics was when you debated Jay Dyer on the canons.
Yeah.
That's that argument that you had brought at that time really messed with me temporarily, because the problem that I had with the whole economia thing that you brought at that time was, wait a minute, so if they can loose the canons, then like could they loose the Trinity? Could they just loose the canons of the Trinity? Like could they just do that? Right? And I had to like ask a lot of people about this and be like, yo, like is Cleve cooking here? Like I don't understand. Like it's the only argument I've ever heard from a Protestant that genuinely actually made me have to think for a couple seconds. That scared me.
To
You
be
know?
fair, it kind of messed with me too in my process of inquiry. I it was probably the one of the biggest roadblocks for me was, I guess, because that's a question of epistemology, right? So like
Yeah.
if you're going to compare paradigms, like Protestant perspective would be the sola scriptura paradigm. And oh, hold on, I don't have my wedding ring on. Give me 1 second.
Oh, you got to have that, man. I
Yeah, I
mean,
got
come
to
on
have
now.
that on. I was lifting weights. I don't like to scuff it
Yeah.
up, you know. So
I gotta get a
anyway, so
Quelo.
yeah, it's a paradigm level question. It's an epistemology question. So you compare the paradigms. What do you have as your authority? Well, sola scriptura, scripture is the sole infallible authority. So that's kind of your epistemology there. It's busted epistemology, but it's your epistemology. From the Orthodox perspective, it's like if you're really going to boil it down, the normative authority is basically the ecumenical councils and the local synods as well. So, I mean, you can also expand out from there as well, but that's kind of like the foundation. That's like the floorboard kind of deal there. So, if you were to pick apart that, um, that's a huge hurdle to overcome. So, I had to have multiple different conversations with people that were good at canon law to kind of untangle my brain a bit. But kind of where I was at was, you know what? Let me do this. I'm going to pull up some citations that I would use in my debates there or in
Yep.
this discussion, and then I'll because I'm going to do a video series debunking my old arguments, and I'll dive through this into greater detail. But
Okay.
I'll show you why I got messed up.
Is
So,
it just going to be in the presentation thing for StreamYard and I can pull it up, or what?
oh, I can do that too, I guess. I was
I was
just
about to
gonna
say you don't have to. I was just asking if that's what you were doing so I can get ready for it.
no, I was just gonna read it. Let me pull up my notes real quick. So if I were to look at the rudder, right? There's a couple of citations that I would typically use. So in the rudder, basically what the rudder is, it's a compilation of canons compiled by Saint Nicodemus of the Holy Mountain, and it's authoritative. But there's a preface to the text in which he kind of lays out some basic principles. And within that preface, it says, the sacred canons of the holy apostles and of the ecumenical and local councils are to remain in force perpetually, as they are the voice of the Holy Spirit through the fathers, binding upon the entire church. None may reject or annul them. They are established for the governance and salvation of the faithful, and their authority endures unless an ecumenical council with equal divine inspiration decrees otherwise. Okay, so this is from the rudder. The other citation here that I would typically use would be, let me see if I can find it real quick, because there's a bunch that I would go through. I want to, there was like the consequences of basically rejecting them. Anyway, it says, oh, there you go. The authority to bind and loose, which the church has received, Matthew 18:18, is exercised in accordance with the standard and rule of action laid down by the scriptures and the 7 ecumenical synods. Her will is directed and controlled by the law of God, and in defiance of the law, she loses the right to bind or loose, thus would forfeit her claim to orthodoxy. The law of God cannot be broken by the church. As divine Chrysostom also asserts, economy is permissible only so far as it involves no violation of the law.
Okay.
So that messed me up, because as I'm looking at it from an epistemology perspective, if the practice changed that radically from my reading of those the preface to the canons, then that would almost make the epistemology subjective. But the answers that I received were sufficient. So looking into it deeper, what St. Nicodemus is actually talking about in violation of the canons would be to apply them in an immoral way, not just simply a lack of application, but if they were to apply the canons of the ecumenical councils in a way that's immoral. So for instance, if you were to take maybe the canons that state, like if you were to take the canons from Trullo that say that, bishops must be celibate, but the priests, can marry, so on and so forth. If you were to take that and let's say, I don't know, I'm going to be bishop for a moment. Okay, now no layman can marry, no priest can marry. That's an evil application of the canon. So you forfeit the ability to bind and loose. As far as the remaining in force perpetually, I mean, that's still true, but it's not that the canons are self-actualizing magic spells. They need somebody to apply them. So that somebody is the bishop. And they have the discretion of applying them with economy or with acrovia. So economia or acrovia. Acrovia would be rigidity of the law. Economy would be kind of like making an exception in certain instances, and that can be a broad exception. For instance, if you were to look at, I think it's Canon 20 of Nicaea 1, it says no kneeling on the Lord's Day. Okay, if you were to look at some of the Goark parishes, they kneel on the Lord's Day sometimes, and depending on the parish. So that would be an application of economy because they use the pews. So I guess it would be probably to accommodate maybe the elderly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that was one of the big things that I remember. Just when you had brought that up, it kind of confused me for a minute, because I kind of thought to myself, like, and that's not even like kind of what I got from the argument that you had. The argument that you had, I kind of like got like, dang, if the bishop has the ability to kind of just like bind and loose canons, like, does that also apply to like Trinitarian canons? Like, does that apply to like, like, I didn't understand like the difference in like canon law and stuff. But yeah, that was kind of like one of the ways that I actually learned about who you were. And hilariously enough, actually, a lot of people in like the circles that I'm a part of used to go around saying that you were like the Protestant Jay Dyer, the guy that nobody wanted to debate. So it was kind of just one of those kind of things too. So, I mean, hey, amen that you were able to find that. But that actually kind of leads me to my main thing is what, like, how did you kind of like, did you grow up Christian and then like slowly became like, I guess slowly started looking into church history, or like, how did that work?
Sure. I mean, when I was a little kid, we went to a Church of Christ church, but we left that pretty quickly because they were a little cuckoo. And then we went to a non-denominational church. Then after my parents, they got a divorce, they stopped going to church for a while. So I didn't go back to church until I was like a young adult. And then I went back to non-denominational circles, and I kind of just remained there, up until my conversion to Orthodoxy.
Okay. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Because for me, like, I was just part of like a Pentecostal, like non-denominational evangelical church, and I started getting into like apologetics. And then as soon as I started getting into apologetics, I kind of like looked at where my denomination was, and I was like, I can't even defend this. I was like, I can't even defend. Like, that was how it came to me. It was a lot easier for me to convert. Like, after I kind of learned about the epistemology stuff for Orthodoxy, I kind of just like submitted to everything. Like, I was just like, oh, they say that we can intercede with the saints, whatever, they're probably right. Like, that was like pretty, like, I was really easy to convert. I'm not even gonna lie to you. But what was like the biggest thing for you that made you not want to make that jump to Orthodoxy?
The canon law arguments, to be honest. Those were the biggest hurdle for me. I think maybe initially, maybe some of the Mariology. was iffy for me, especially
Like
if
some
you
of
were
the
to look at
prayers,
like some of the statements by Gregory Palamas and his Dormition homilies,
or like
or
Saint
maybe
John Maximovich and stuff
yeah.
like that.
There's some interesting language. Also, like the language of like salvation, like Most Holy Theotokos save us, like that kind of language at like a surface level was like, that's not too difficult to overcome though. But maybe I'd say some of the Mariology, and then grappling with I mean, I think that's the biggest thing, because I remember at one point I was saying this in an interview that I did not that long ago. At one point, I had like a chink in the armor. I don't remember what the argument was. That was like I was looking into something, and I was like, maybe I need to rethink the Protestantism thing. And I went with a buddy of mine that was he was Greek. He went to a Greek church, Greek Orthodox, and we went there. And I mean, it was cool. But I had heard the word mediatrix, and I was like, oh, I don't like that. Like.
Yeah.
So I stopped going. I was like, all right, now, I'm going hard in the paint again. Like mediatrix. Okay. I'm turning my, whatever was inquiring in my brain off. And then that, I don't know. I just felt like, I felt spiritually dry after that. I was kind of grieving the spirit, I think, in that, because I think that was God calling me in that direction. And, obviously we have free will. We can grieve the spirit, but
Yeah.
I think probably Mariology would be one of the bigger ones, which is ironic given the conversion story. And then the canon law stuff, probably.
If I remember correctly, your conversion story is kind of like based with Mary, right? It was one of the things that you kind of had with yourself, right?
Yeah,
I can't
yeah.
remember.
I did have an experience, but the way that I would explain it would be something like I had all of this information, I had all of this knowledge, but it was dead. Like it was just dead knowledge. Like it was
Yeah.
what am I doing with it? It needed to be brought to life. And I think that application of grace is kind of what did it, kind of opened the noose a little bit.
It was in
And
truth,
that,
but not spirit, in a
yeah,
sense. Yeah.
that was that was where I turned the corner, I think.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's really cool. Because like I heard a little bit about kind of like your experience that you had, which is really, really awesome, and glory to God for that, for sure. What would you say, right now that you are, because you're attending liturgy now, right?
Yeah.
What would you say compared to the past church that you were a part of is one of the biggest differences that you're noticing, like spiritually, like with the difference of the two?
Spiritual difference. I mean, certainly there is a you start to see kind of a your entire framework pieces together coherently, whereas before, from the, I guess, kind of Protestant perspective, it's slightly fragmented, I think. Now you can like kind of hodgepodge your worldview together by piecing together different parts, but within Orthodoxy it's kind of like it's already there for you. Not that I'm not talking about just submitting my intellect or something like that, but I'm saying like every piece influences the next piece in theology. Like I don't know if you've ever read Losky's Mystical Theology.
I've read a little bit of that. I haven't read very much of Losky.
So the principle is this: it's like every single doctrine influences downstream several other doctrines. So for instance, with the essence energy distinction, if you were to look at that, that's the only way to really have coherent Eucharistic theology.
Yes.
Because if you were to look at divine simplicity, right, it's created grace that you're basically interacting with. So what are you going to what are you really participating in the Eucharist if you're holding to absolute divine simplicity? Are you interacting with the essence of God?
Yeah, definitely don't want to say that.
Or are you interacting with created grace? Either issue or either way kind of causes some issues theologically. The only coherent way to have the only coherent way to have Eucharistic theology that makes sense would be to hold to the essence energy distinction, uncreated grace, and that's what you're interacting with, basically. But it's I would say that's one of the bigger pieces. I think also just having the like practicing the intercession of the saints and seeing the results of such has been interesting. Like I know there's been multiple times where I've petitioned the Blessed Theotokos to intercede over a certain situation. I guess I could recall one. I had a dispute with somebody, and I was sitting there stressing out about it. I'm like, maybe if I like approach it from this direction, maybe if I say this, maybe if, oh, well, what if I do this for a while and then we'll see if that resolves it. Or, but the ramifications of the issue not being resolved would have been like catastrophic. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to pray. I'm going to ask the Theotokos to intercede. And I tell you, within the hour, that same person contacted me and the issue was resolved. So, I mean, like that kind of stuff seems to happen quite a bit. It's been an interesting ride, though. I think I'm very blessed to, attend the church that I do attend, because my priest is very wise.
Well, that's good. That's definitely good.
Yeah, and what's kind of funny was when I went there, he actually recognized me before I even said it. He's like, "Are you an online guy?" I'm like, "Okay."
You're one of those Protestant apologists, aren't you? What are you doing here? You doing a scoop?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What are you sniffing around here for?
No, yeah, what are you gonna interview me and try to debate me or something? What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm gonna debate the
priest, man.
Oh, that'd be terrible.
Some people try to do that, man. There's some people that are pretty wild with the way that they approach like fake inquire, because there's some people that inquire in a fake manner, right? Like where they'll be like, I'm gonna go to an Orthodox church today and I'm gonna go talk to the priest, and then they'll like be like, hey, how's it going? Wow, really beautiful church, by the way. Why do you guys worship idols? You know,
I mean? Like, have you ever considered maybe not adding anything on top of Christ to the gospel?
Yeah, have you ever thought that? Gospel? Yeah, how is it that this building can save me? That's weird. You know what I mean? Like just like fake questions. But
yeah, that's rough, dude. I haven't seen anything like that. I've seen them do that in like a Roman Catholic church, though. There's like usually like the like more Jim Bob evangelical guys will go in there. They're like, so how does it feel to worship Mary? You know, or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, that someone will be like hyperdulia, not latria. You know what I mean? Like in the background and stuff. Not make it any better for them. Just it causes people to be like, wait a minute, do you just concede that for in a way? Like it's the way that they approach it sometimes is kind of funny compared to us, because we kind of have the no but kind of thing, like in the no, it's not worship, but it's like veneration in this way. But like there's a lot of Catholics that I talk to that, like when I'm talking to them about Mary, right? Because Theotokos, right? Glorious Theotokos, right? Awesome. But they say it in a different way sometimes that kind of causes me to go, what'd you say?
Yeah.
Like you just wait, you said, you do worship Mary. Okay. Insofar as, right. Like that.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff.
Yeah. They'll say it the rage bait, it seems like.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. They also like to, play on the polemic of saying like, oh, well, she's omnipotent.
Dude,
she has grace, right? She has grace. And I'm like, okay. I mean, I get it. All right. But like, you guys really like to harp on that kind of stuff, huh?
You guys might want to chill on like you might have like a hyper nuanced understanding, but some of the language that they use in reference to that can be scandalizing for people. I know when I was
hear that.
Yeah, well, when I was a Protestant, I did videos on Alphonsus Liguri's Glories of Mary. We'd walk through that as like, she is omnipotent. She is, like has all.
She is all knowing. She has the omni properties. You're just like, oh my gosh, bro.
Said she has all the power of her son. I'm like, dude, how are you going to just lay that out there? And then I don't know. For my Protestant brain, I was like, oh, what is going on, dude? You're basically saying, she's like her own. Anyway.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. So another thing that I have here is when you were inquiring specifically, just because I'm assuming that you also kind of like went into like an apostolic inquiring phase in a general sense at some point, where it was kind of like, okay, well, we'll look to see what the church was in 1054 or prior to that, in a sense, and then think like, now let's look at what we have now. Which one would be the closest to that? That's usually how most people would approach things, right? Because like that's how I did. But I know that your channel was very geared towards refuting the West. I do know that for a fact, like refuting like the Roman Catholic Church, especially for the things that they were doing. But was there a time where like there was something from the Roman Catholic Church that you were interested in that you ended up just finding in Orthodoxy instead that was better, like to a degree, just in general, right? Like something you thought at first may be right with them, and that maybe we don't have. No, not at all.
No, I never. I don't know. This is the thing, though. I mean, even super early on, maybe I just knew too much. I think because a lot of the arguments that I would use are, I don't know. They help in both directions, like the Protestantism and Orthodoxy. Like I can use them to a degree. But
Yeah, papacy
also
argument seems
I
good.
think just knowing the Roman Catholic system, knowing the history of it, actually knowing church history, not just polemics, seeing the deception that they do often. It's like a bait and switch. It's like, oh, look at these like trad edits. Oh, I got my Crusader edit, dude. It's so cool. And then you get into the church and it's like, it's gay. I mean,
It's like Catholic takia, bro. It's like, you know.
yeah. Well, it's a bait and switch, man. I mean, you look at, I feel so horrible for all these people that have upended their entire lives. They become Roman Catholic, and then the Pope's welcoming a pride parade in the heart of the Vatican. I mean, dude, I don't know. I don't know about you, but like, even from the church history perspective, I think it's pretty apparent to anybody that does more than a cursory reading or just is like reading articles that papal supremacy, post-Vatican I papal supremacy, did not exist in the first 1,000 years of the church. Ratzinger admits as much. He admits it. He says he was talking about a dialogue with Athenagoras, who was the patriarch at the time, ecumenical patriarch at the time, and he said, "Oh, Athenagoras, when he greeted the Pope and he only gave him primacy honorifics." He's saying, oh, you don't need to worry about that because he's just expressing the way that the church was governed in the first 1,000 years. We can't expect more from the East. So it's like, yeah, we're conceding that the Orthodox have the correct ecclesiology from the first 1,000 years of the church, but we have no problem admitting that we're different, you know. And it also seems like the online apologists may seem, you know, based or whatever. They seem like cool guys. They seem like guys I would like to hang out with in some instances. Like,
Sometimes.
I don't know.
Sometimes.
Yes. Sometimes
a lot of them act like demons, man. I'm not even gonna lie to you, like straight up. That's one of the problems that I've had. I've debated a lot of them, but like, that's just me.
Well, I'm talking about the more like trad types. Usually are more cooler guys, not the Pope splainers. Those, yeah. Anyway, the point that I was gonna make was they seem like cool dudes, but then you look at the actual hierarchy and they're completely counter signaling them at every single step of the way. It's like, oh no, trust me, dude. It's a trad institution. Trust me. It's so cool. Oh, we're closing every single TLM. Okay. Oh, well, actually we're going to have a bishop that is basically wanting to give the Eucharist to unrepentant Skittles people. And then we're going to have him run the Jubilee celebration where we have people come in with a sodomy cross into the heart of the church. Like, I don't know how you could defend that. So, I mean, there's different elements to it, but I think it's extremely clear. I think the biggest issue I had with Roman Catholicism, one of the bigger issues that I still have, is Vatican II's radical ecumenism. Is basically LGBT. Yeah. No TLM for you, but we're gonna do the Skittles mass. That's cool.
Exactly. That's the best part. Yeah.
But so I said this in my debate with Dr. Trent Doherty, the linguistic scholar, Catholic guy. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, the guy that you made crash out and flip you off on camera.
Yeah. So yes, I said this to him in that debate, and I really hold to this. The fruit of radical ecumenism is that he was cool with having Danny as a debate partner who was a bisexual atheist, and he literally changed his name to bisexual atheist. We see since Vatican II, basically, I don't know if you know anything about Freemasonry, but almost everything that was listed as the goals of the Masons in the Alta Vendita, we're seeing manifested within the Roman Catholic Church today. It was religious pluralism. It was the dissemination of Enlightenment principles. So basically a step further than classical liberalism, and religious indifferentism and separation of church and state. I mean, you've already got all four goals accomplished that were stated in the Alta Vendita of what they wanted to have happen in the Roman Catholic Church. So, I mean, whether or not you accept that document as genuine, the goals are all met. It's here. Vatican II basically sealed the deal for them. They're bound by ecumenical council to be ecumenists, radical ecumenists. And now you see it today. Well, guess what? Muslims and Christians have the same God. That's within Vatican II. That's in Nostra Aetate. Guess what? For Hindus, they use the capital G. So they're talking about the one true God. The Hindus worship the one true God. Well, guess what? They just released a document confirming as much. And they opened up prayer rooms to the Muslims. Dude, I mean, I could go on and on.
You didn't know that Brahman is Yahweh? You didn't know that?
Yeah, pretty much, dude.
Yeah.
That's nuts, man. I mean, the Hindus literally are worshiping demons. It's not that complicated of an argument to wade through.
Yeah, no, that was a weird time in apologetics where, like, because I remember like about a year or two ago, like they would, the way that the kind of like they would Pope explain those kind of statements is that they'd be like, oh no, so Nostra Aetate is not saying that they worship the same God. It's actually kind of saying this. Nowadays, you can actually see the Catholic apologists straight up just go, yeah, we do. So what? De re or de dicto, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they don't even care anymore. They'll straight up just admit it. I mean, it's insane how their apologetic has switched to just straight up just affirming the stuff that like everyone was like, hey, they affirm these things, be careful. Like this is a weird belief. And then they're like, yeah, so what?
Yeah, well, dude, I think it's like the sunken cost fallacy though, right? Like, I mean, you're already kind of, you've given up so much. If you've left Protestantism to become a Roman Catholic, like your family probably abandoned you, your friends probably abandoned you, and now you got to defend basically gay pope. So, I mean, what are you going to do? Yeah, so what? You know, we're gonna stay in. We're gonna stay in no matter what. Doesn't matter. Basically,
Pope's plain till I die.
Who is that? Who's that saint? Saint Catherine.
Siena, Catherine.
Yeah,
Siena.
yeah, that was like she basically
Pope was
said,
incarnate Satan.
Yeah, if the Pope was Satan, you still gotta
you still gotta cling to him. What? Yeah, I know what you're talking about. And there's a lot of stuff going on with all that, and it's funny too because they'll try to tell me like, "Yo, you should read Catherine of Siena," and I'm like, "Oh, I've kind of read her."
Dude, she's so base. She starved herself to death. She's so base, dude.
She was so base that she said that the Pope could be Satan, which, by the way, just kind of like that at that point, like Book of Revelation kind of starts making sense. But I mean, whatever, bro. Like, if you want to go for that. Next thing I do want to get on, though, it's kind of a similar topic. Is did you believe in the filioque when you were a Protestant? Was that something you kind of got into?
Yeah, I did, but I think I started to see some of the issues with holding to that position to begin with. I mean, you kind of need, because it undermines the monarchical Trinitarian system, and you kind of need that to hold to essence energy distinction. So once you're convinced of essence energy distinction, the rest kind of logically follow. I mean, also, it seems like there's all these scholastic nuances that are tossed on top of it to try to make it make sense from the Western view. Yeah. But it really does seem like it was included more for like political reasons. You know what I mean? But it's like we're shooting the arrow and then we're painting the bullseye around it. And that seems like a common theme in the West, typically. Is like, this is the reason, this, like, we've innovated this doctrine. Now we're going to paint the bullseye around the doctrine. Oh yeah, the spirit spirates himself. You know, that kind of thing. Like it's just kind of like
they're biting crazy bullets.
Yeah. But I think for me, once you've seen how essence energy distinction is really the only way that you could participate in the Eucharist and it makes sense, the rest of it kind of logically flows from there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I would agree. Cause like after you get to like understanding EED and you start understanding things like energetic procession, whatever, eternal manifestation, like, and you understand both of those things pretty well. Like you actually look at the filioque and you're like, oh, it's completely incoherent. If these two things are true, like the filioque is like, there's no way that can even be the case. Yeah. And it also like allows you to understand a lot of the fathers in the first millennia that kind of were confusing, right? Like there's some Western fathers that would be like, oh, the Holy Spirit proceeds from the Father and the Son. But like from a surface level reading without any understanding of like eternal manifestation or energetic procession or anything like that, you read that and you're just like, dude, Florence was right. He said, and the Son. You know what I mean? Like just straight up. And it's one of the biggest things because I debate, because that's actually one of the main topics that I debate all the time is the filioque with Roman Catholics all the time. And
nice.
I remember that like one of the statements, I remember somebody came up, I think I actually uploaded it recently on my channel. Somebody came up on my live stream, on my open debate stream, and they were just like, how come you deny the filioque when Ambrose and Augustine say, and the Son? And I'm like, are you serious? Is that like the level that we're talking?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, he says, and the Son. And I'm like, dude, I say, and the Son. Now what? You know what I mean? Like, you know, like there's a different reason for all these things, and they collapse it into like one thing.
Well, you know, I've noticed this doing debates with the different, you know, the different denominations and so on and so forth. But the Roman Catholics really do seem like low information converts typically. Like if they're jumping into Roman Catholicism, it's typically because they're low information or it was more convenient, and they just don't know the issues. I saw this even with many of their like quote unquote semi-popular apologists, like Kevin since 33 AD is like a perfect example of this. He did a video that was going through some of, I used to do like shorts every single day. I'd publish a short every day with like church father citations. And he would go through, he made a video. It was like, this is why he converted. And it was like kind of like going through things. And it was like the keys are given to all of the apostles, not knowing that all of those quotes were refutations of the recent debate that Timothy Gordon had with Jay Dyer, where he said, oh, the keys are only given to Peter. So Kevin's whole thing was like, the Roman Catholic Church actually teaches that the keys are given to all the apostles, but it's given through Peter. So therefore, Cleve is wrong. And then he loops back. He loops back, dude. He loops back and he admits after people call him out an X in the comments like crazy. And he was like, okay, maybe the rest of these quotes that say like, Rome is necessary for unity don't actually prove papal supremacy. But still, Cleve is dishonest because he didn't include like freaking 20 paragraphs in a YouTube short. I'm like, dude, if this is all the Roman Catholics have, it's a hot mess, dude. And I think this was made super apparent with a lot of the debates that have happened recently. The Roman Catholics have taken loss after loss after loss. I mean, look at the Eric Ibarra versus Ubi Petrus debate. Look at Voice of Reason versus Ubi. Look at Jay versus Tim twice. Tim Gordon both times.
Jay versus Ibarra.
Yeah. I mean, each of these debates that have happened relatively recently have been a mess. I was looking at the Nick Fuentes debate with Jay recently. I was looking at that today, and his like whole thing was, even after the fact, he came back and he said,
keys.
Yeah, I kind of lost, but the keys, dude. The key. I just kept going back to the keys, man. It's like, okay, dude.
Matthew 16 is divinely inspired.
Yeah. When you have cognitive dissonance, go back and remind yourself about the keys.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing that the Protestants do with Ephesians 2:8, right? Like they read like Ephesians 2:8 and they're just like, hey, ortho dogs, look at this.
Mm-hmm.
It says by faith, you guys are cooked. You have a false gospel. That's what happened when I freaking debated Matt Slick. It's pretty much the whole conversation.
I saw that debate. What's funny?
It was miserable to go through, man. I'm not even gonna lie.
What's really funny. My wife had told her boss that we were going to an Orthodox church, and he's like, oh well, let me send you an article. It's from Carm. I'm like, dude, I know Matt Slick. What do you mean?
Oh, no. Oh gosh.
I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right, let's go. Yeah, dude, that quote unquote debate you had with him was almost unlistenable.
Yeah.
It didn't go anywhere. He was just like, do you read the Bible? Bryce, do you read the Bible? Oh my goodness.
Just read it. That's all he kept doing over and over. It was like breathing in my ear, man. I couldn't handle it. Just breathing in my ear over and over. Like, dude, just stop walking for a second, please.
It's wild.
Ace on the YouTube comment says, do you have any recommendations on books I can read or channels I can check out to learn more about prayer? I would honestly just say any of like the well-known Orthodox priests that are on YouTube, right? There's a lot of them that exist. Like we have like Father Peter Here's, Father Josiah Trenum. We even have people like Father Moses, which is like the Mr. Beast of Orthodoxy, in my opinion. The dude's hilarious. We got like a bunch of different types of people, especially like if you're looking for like spiritual nourishment, people like Father Spirit and Bailey.
Yeah.
Also huge. Big thing that I would also say though, is go to a liturgy and actually talk to a priest, because you're not going to find that spiritual enlightenment on the internet. It's just not going to happen. Do you have anything else that you'd recommend for that?
No, I think that's good. Go support Father Peter Here's Uncut Mountain Press. Go look for some books on his website.
Yeah, I agree. He said LOL at the Slick impression. He said yeah, I know. It was bad, bro. It was so bad. Bryce, would you debate Kevin 33 AD? He's being insufferable. If he wants to talk, we can talk. I don't deny anybody, brother. Anyway, another thing, right? Because I talked about filioque, of course, difference between East and West, but did you look really at all from your conversion process into the Oriental Orthodox Church, possibly into looking into the Miaphysite arguments, things like Severus of Antioch and those guys?
Yeah, I mean, when I had commented on the Craig Truglia versus Aegean debate, and it's very obvious a lot of their arguments come from selective citations of different scholarly sources. I can give you an example. This was kind of what I noticed the entire debate there, and then I'll go into a broader kind of response to their theology. But if you watch that debate, you'll notice that anytime Craig would bring up a citation, what Agent would do is he would go back and he would only cite scholars, even if they were fringe, that specifically agreed with his position already. So, I mean, I could do the same thing, and I did in some instances, because it's a good rhetorical kind of play. But people that really don't understand the issues, they get confused by it. So I'll give you an example. Let's say if I was doing a debate on Mariology, Marian devotions,
yeah,
I could cite Subtuum Presidium, 250 AD. That's the earliest Marian devotion. That gives me 250 years to work with, right? But I could say, well, you know, Hans Forster actually dates this devotion to the 8th century. So in the debate, I'm not going to grant you 250 AD. I'm going to go with the French scholar Hans Forster, and I'm going to say this is actually an 8th century practice. Therefore, we don't see Marian devotions explicitly until whatever other benchmark I already had.
It's not universally accepted to be from that time period.
Which would probably be like, I would say maybe St. Ephraim the Syrian. And I would say, well, this is like a, 4th century innovation, end of the 4th century innovation or something. So that gives me more to play with there. That's kind of what Agent did in that entire debate. He just selectively cited scholarship that only agreed with him and then just refused to engage with any of Craig's citations towards him. So I pointed this out, and people were like, "Oh, dude, you can't say that about Agent. He's like our hero." Well, first off, if you only debate one topic, it's not that hard to know what sources are going to be cited, and then selectively quote, the scholars that agree with you. But I would say the biggest issue is this: schism is damnable heresy. So why would I want to be a schismatic? And it's very obvious that by not accepting the decrees of the ecumenical councils, they broke themselves off from the church. If you were to look at what the actual disagreement is, okay, one composite nature versus 2 natures, 1 hypostasis. Okay, great. And then we're going to quibble about terminology. Okay, so, I mean, sure, the fathers thought it was a huge deal, but at the same time, is that really worth you breaking yourself off from the church? And I don't think it is.
I mean, I think that probably comes along with the same thing that you said earlier, where you said that like it originally was somebody shot an arrow, and then after they realized they made a mistake, they built a whole worldview around whatever that thing was. Because I believe personally that the non-Chalcedonians in the beginning were just not understanding Chalcedon, and then they broke off accidentally, kind of like admitting like a Eutychian understanding. But then after they realized that the reason why they broke off showed that they were Eutychian, that's when people like Severus of Antioch came, and he was just like, well, no, we're not that either. We actually believe in one composite nature. It's not fused together. And because like you notice how the earliest people right after Chalcedon didn't just immediately like start talking about the one composite nature, right? Like they would say in one nature. That's what they were saying. Those people were breaking off for that reason.
Yeah, and I think I completely agree with what you were saying there, because it does seem like that's a bit of nuance added after the fact. Yeah. And I noticed this when you ask them the question. It's like, okay, so is the one nature uncreated or created? You know what I mean? They have to answer it that way.
Both.
Both.
Oh,
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's freaking Goku, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, it's because that was, I'm not even going to lie to you. Like I had to look a lot into Christology because Agan was another one of those kind of people that kind of gave me a little bit of Shubhat as well for a while, because like he's really good at kind of like presenting his videos in a way where like he has the scholarly, like the backing, like everyone agrees with him in a way. Like he kind of has like that mentality with the way that he presents things. And
it's not really true though.
No, it's not. I mean, like you can look into a lot of the things that he's citing. And like, I mean, he ended up actually like kind of getting in trouble because he was actually on my channel when it happened, because he cited somebody that didn't exist. He cited a saint that doesn't exist, and he named him after like a Greek demigod. Like it was insane. Like on one of the fathers were Miaphysites video.
Really?
Like he straight up just cited somebody that didn't exist. Like Sig, I don't know if you know who Sig is. But Sig freaking called him out on that, and like on my channel, like straight up just going like really deep into it. He's like, this person doesn't exist. Like, who is this? Yeah, like the picture of the guy was Barnabas. So like, who is this? It was insane. And that was kind of when I backed away, and I was like, okay, Like it's not actually as serious as I thought it was. Cause I was scared a little bit. I was actually looking up on my phone because I live in Nebraska, man. So like I was looking at my phone. I was like, do you even have any Coptic churches in my town? No way, right? That doesn't exist. Like I was getting scared for a while, like doing research. And that's kind of one of the downsides to being an apologist is you have the Shubahat temptations a lot, right? Where like maybe you might hear something that a regular layman won't ever hear. You know what I mean? Like the 70-year-old grandma who goes to church every single day in Russia and doesn't ever hear about any of these problems is never going to sit there in her house one day and go, but is Christ really two natures?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's never going to happen. It's a different type of burden that we got where we have to worry about that. Like, could they be right?
I think you can avoid all of that by just simply admitting that those who have rejected the ecumenical councils and broke themselves off from the church, they're schismatics, right? And not accept, because you can kind of tell when people are being revisionist about history. That's the way that I feel when I try to dive into the Roman Catholic claims, and they're like, no, you guys broke off from us. We didn't break off from you. Well, it's one patriarchate breaking off from the other four. So it's like, who schism from who? It's not that difficult to tell, right? Use Occam's razor.
I use that argument all the time, actually, with that. I'm just like, oh, so 4 freaking churches were anathematized and then 1 survived? Oh, wow. Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm. But the same can be said about the Coptics, right?
Yeah.
They split off. So you don't, I mean, I get the nuances of the argument, and the arguments they're good to have. But I think it's very clear that Agent is just very good at being creative.
Oh yeah.
And
Absolutely.
presenting information in a rapid fire kind of Gish Gallop way, where he's going to cite he knows all the scholars that agree with him. He's going to just shoot them off rapid fire at you. That was like me with the canons, though. You know, like I know all the canons the Orthodox Church don't hold to anymore, or maybe they're not in practice at the time. And I'll just be like, okay, Canon 11 Nicaea 1, Canon 20 Nicaea 1. We're going to talk about the Council of Quinisext. We're going to talk about, Jewish doctors. All of these things.
You gonna condemn somebody with a Jewish doctor? Huh? Not going against your canons.
Yeah, and then I get people in the comments like, yeah, I don't go to Jewish doctor. I hold the canon. Oh my God, great.
Wow. Yeah. So trad of you.
Yeah, you're so trad, dude.
Okay. So another thing as well, regarding the papacy, right? Because we kind of already talked a little bit about the papacy, but actually I don't even really need to do too much about that because you kind of like went super in depth about the papal supremacy stuff. Let's kind of get back more into the Protestantism stuff. So what would you say personally, if you were to be somebody who is having a conversation with a Protestant, what would be the first thing that you would actually try to convince them of regarding Orthodoxy?
I would stare at the screen, say psych. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Become Orthodox over and over again.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I think
go to liturgy.
The easiest thing to maybe break down would be the argument against sola scriptura. So if you were to take it to its logical conclusion, right? Scripture is the sole infallible authority for matters of faith. Okay. They may affirm fallible authorities, right? They may affirm that even those fallible authorities are binding for their particular institution. But with that system of epistemology, there is an issue. The issue is that you cannot define objectively who is and isn't a Christian. I'm not talking about individuals. I'm talking about if can you answer the question of are Docetists Christian, are Montanists Christian, are Gnostics Christian, are so on and so forth. They cannot answer that objectively. They might be able to answer within their own subjective institution, but they can't answer it objectively. That's because they don't hold to the ecumenical councils and they don't hold to them as infallible. And even the branches within Protestantism, like the Anglicans that say they hold to ecumenical councils, they don't hold the anathemas. They hold the branch theory. So they would say non-Chalcedonians are okay. They would say, so on and so forth, because they hold the branch theory. These are all just different branches, right? So there's really no objective way.
It's the apostolic faith, bro.
Right. Yeah. There's no objective way to say who is and isn't a Christian. So if Scripture is the sole infallible authority for matters of faith, then dogma is fallible. Then your interpretation of Scripture is fallible. Then you know, who you determining who is and isn't a Christian, you can't do that objectively. It's fallible. So that kind of reduces it all to subjectivity. Also, I think I mean, I'll leave it there. I think the sola scriptura argument is pretty solid. That would probably be the first place that I would look at. I would also maybe say this and appeal to history. If you were to say, I don't know, because a lot of Protestant apologists, if I'm speaking to an apologist, they're going to tell me that, you know, I don't know, they'll try to cite church fathers that maybe will make a statement that sounds somewhat like what they believe, right? So, I mean, that's kind of what I did in the channel too. Would bring up church father citations. I'd say like, hey, this person seems to make a statement that sounds somewhat like sola scriptura, so on and so forth. I would take that a step further. If you were to look at the ecumenical councils, what did those same people think about the ecumenical councils? Well, they thought they were divinely inspired, and they held to the anathemas, and they held that there was one visible church institution. So, Protestant, do you have the same faith as the Christians for the first 1,000 years of the church? Can you find me one? Can you find me one that didn't hold to that view? Just one. That wasn't a
But
heretic.
St. John Chrysostom says that we need the scriptures, man.
Yeah. But you get what I'm saying, though. Like, there's not a single person that was really brought to light, I think, really well by Joe Heschmeyer in his needgod.net debate. We were kind of clowning on that a little bit because he was like, what did he say? People who believe that baptism is necessary are like going to hell or something. He's like, you're adding to the gospel. So Joe said to him, what did he say? He said, can you find me one single real Christian in the first 1,000 years of the church then? Because they all hold the baptismal regeneration. And he's like,
the Gnostics.
There's always a remnant. There's always a remnant. And he just
I was about to say the Gnostics would be one of the only ones who thought that was actually the case. That's the bad part, is that a lot of the people that actually even held to a non-regenerative process through baptism were the people that were like super heretics, like not even just like heretics, but like their own religion type thing, like the Gnostic, the early Gnostics. Because like like the Gnostics, for example, like they served the Eucharist with water, right? Like instead of wine, because, you know, water's not pure, or sorry, water's pure and wine's not, and all this kind of stuff. They were called hydroparapaste or something like that. It was crazy, where they would serve, like they would do insane things with the Eucharist. I mean, there was some groups that served the Eucharist as bread and cheese, right? Like in the first 1,000 years.
Yeah.
And like usually you could see the people that had these Protestant views, especially back then, like they were so far away from what the church actually was back in like the first millennia. Like Montanism, like you can kind of see that as like the first Protestant understanding, right? Like the first attempt.
Pentecostals, maybe.
Like just though, but like at the same time, kind of like believing that their interpretation is like, oh, well, there's more, you know, because they also interpreted like John 14 and John 15 regarding the helper and the comforter. Like the Montanists would actually say Montanus. that they're saying like, oh, that's Montanus.
Yeah, that's
right? The same thing that they do with Muhammad, right? What Muslims do with Muhammad all the time. So like there's, you know, they would interpret things without the help of the church and completely screw up everything. And then you see that nowadays with like the whole Protestantism that exists now, especially, and you can see it rooted in it. And it's like, it's scary sometimes when you see it, because you look back at history and you're like, wait a minute, that was solved 1,000 years ago. Like,
yeah. No, I completely agree. It's interesting when you read the fathers writing about Montanism, they're like, yeah, it was a spiritual experience. It was demons causing them to have these seizures. But you know, it's talking about the heretics having the same type of theology or argumentation as Protestants. I noticed that when I would go through and I would cite specific citations, or I would study like more the like classical like Reformation figures. So like I remember I was reading the examination of the Council of Trent and by Chemnitz, and I was going through and I was reading his argument for sola scriptura, because sometimes, you know, it's replete with church father citations. He's trying to like tie the patristics into his theology. I noticed one of the citations he used was a pseudo Chrysostom quote, and it says something along the lines of like, when the abomination that causes desolation appears, then you have to cling to the scriptures alone, because you won't know where the real church is. Like it's so blurry, you won't be able to find it. It's a fake. It's not actually Chrysostom.
It's like an Arian, right?
An Arian dude that was mad that he was kicked out of the church. So it's like, okay, so we're using the arguments of the heretics that are upset that they're not in the church. Wait a minute. Does that mean, wait a minute, where does this mindset come from? You know,
Yeah.
bop, 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 you know, the alarms start to go off a little bit. So, yeah, I mean, and you see that a lot. There's a pretty famous quote by Jerome that gets floated around a lot that I know gets called out. Is actually by Pelagius. Somebody, I had a like 18-year-old kid on my show one time, and I didn't catch that he had cited it. I caught him on one because I was like, that Chrysostom quote that you're citing doesn't sound correct, and I believe it was actually the one from Examination of the Council of Trent. So I reshot that part, but I didn't catch in like the big block of quotes that he was citing that he quoted the like pseudo Jerome one, and I was like, I took the video down immediately. But that was another one that was like, because I didn't want to like have a fake quote out there, but I was like, it's interesting that all the pseudo guys that are actually these heretics argue a lot like Protestants do. So maybe there's some sort of correlation there. And I don't know. There was one line of reasoning that my brain would go to often.
Okay. Yeah. It's scary sometimes when you see some of the Protestant denominations, because I agree with you on that, where it's just, you can just see it, right? Like it is a basic theological understanding. Even anybody with basic theological understanding of like church history could look back and be like, wait a minute, these guys are just repeating the same stuff. Like it's like literally repeating the same stuff. Jack the Guitar God, thank you so much for the $5. I appreciate that. That's kind of random out of nowhere, but like the split donation there. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. As well as thank you so much for Danny Town for becoming a new member. That is fantastic. All righty, let me go ahead and pull this thing up here again. So when you were, because you said you were non-denominational for a while, my actual next thing that I had was, what kind of got you to start looking more into like church history, right? Like what got you really to start looking into all that, which then kind of brought you into thinking about Orthodoxy?
Well, I ran that Discord server for a long time, and we were doing a mentorship program. I would read scripture with people, which is actually pretty decent program, dude. Like people that were like Muslims or atheists or whatever that were semi-interested in Christianity. I'd say, hey, well, why don't you read the scripture with me? I'll do a chapter a day, Monday through Friday, and then we'll see where you land after like a month or something. There was a lot of like, people that, started to believe in Jesus after that. But I would get questions from people after I'd been reading with them for a while, and they're like, hey, this like Catholic dude has this claim. Like, how do I respond to this? And I'm like, let me do some research and I'll get back to you. Or like, this Orthodox guy has this claim. How do I respond to it? So I think it was out of a need to like give them answers. And I was like, if I don't know it at the moment, I'll look into it and I'll get back to you with an answer. So after I'd done that for a while, I started to do debates on that platform. And what's funny enough is back then I actually did a debate with, I believe I debated Wagner on Discord. It was like a text thing though, like back and forth. We had gotten into it a little bit. Same thing with Astros, another Roman Catholic guy.
Yeah.
I actually had a debate on Jay's server as well. And at a certain point, I had been banned from like every single Orthodox server for debating. So it was kind of funny. I remember there was a dude on I gotten banned from Redeem's Zoomer's Discord server, even though we were kind of buddies. And it was because one of his mods, who was an Orthodox guy, was like, this guy is an undercover Baptist getting paid to convert like people from Orthodoxy or something. And it was just like the most like random schizo thing I've ever heard. But I got banned from that server. So I would do debates. That's kind of how I got started on it, was on that platform, just kind of going back and forth. And eventually RZ kind of tapped me on the shoulder and he was like, hey, you need to make a YouTube because nobody's doing Protestant apologetics that well on YouTube. So I did. And then, I made the channel and it took off pretty quick. And then, now I'm here.
It's actually funny that you said that person kind of said that you were like a secret agent or whatever. If I remember correctly, didn't Christian King say you were the same thing? That he said that like you were like a Jesuit spy, right? Because you're a Protestant, but it seems like your arguments lead people to like Orthodoxy or Roman Catholicism in a way.
Well,
And so people were,
it's because I defended the perpetual virginity of Mary. So he was mad about that. And he said, because I said all reformers believed in the perpetual virginity of Mary. And he said, you can't believe in that unless you're a Catholic. So you've got to be an undercover Catholic. That was his argument. So I don't know. That guy was, I mean, pray for that dude. I hope that he comes out of whatever crazy evangelical.
me too, man. He's got something
Because
going on.
he was a Jehovah's Witness for a long time. So I think some of that kind of,
At least he's not that anymore. I mean,
yeah,
that's better, definitely, for sure.
it's a step in the right direction for sure. I did like his thumbnail when I made my announcement video. He had like my red head thumbnail, but he stretched out my neck super long and put me in a cassock.
Wow.
It was like cleave to deception, and he
Cleave to
like a big pectoral cross.
Oh my gosh.
Hilarious, dude.
Yeah, that's insane. That it's funny because you said that other person called you a spy, and then Christian King called you a Jesuit spy. And all these freaking like conspiracy theory Protestants thinking that you were like a plant or something like that for just our churches for no reason. Like that's a thing that people do apparently.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think some people spend too much time online, dude.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's definitely for sure. You know, the conspiracy theory mindset gets bigger the more you go down rabbit holes that you may not be ready to enter. You know what I'm saying? And you might think your own stuff about it, but
yeah, nobody says I suspect Christian King is a controlled op. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly. My alt, actually. No.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's Cleve. That's Cleve's alt account that he uses to convince people that Protestants are crazy. Sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
It works out. He had one guy up. I had one guy back up a while ago saying the most insane stuff and wouldn't say who his bishop was, but he was claiming to speak for the church. Yeah, that's probably just like some fake because I'm not gonna lie to you, a lot of these guys that do like these lives, they don't get like real people that come on their lives because they're so just insane the way that they act that no like Orthodox or even Roman Catholic apologist sees that and goes, yeah, I think I'd like to spend my night away from my kids talking to this man. Right. Yeah. Like nobody does that. And so there, like, I also am kind of one of the kind of people that believes that like Christian King brings on people all the time that are just literally not Orthodox. That'll be like, I'm Orthodox. I mean, we worship Mary. Who's your bishop? Don't worry about that. I'm literally the Pope pretty much. You know what I mean? Like, he has people that come up and do that. I'm like, dude, okay, you paid this guy. Like you're tripping. There's no way that somebody did this.
I don't know, man. I've had some pretty weird call-ins from people claiming to be Orthodox. I think there's just people that don't go to a church and maybe they're like online only converts or something.
Yeah, they watch I've seen
edits. I've seen that before. I've also seen like there's a fake archbishop on YouTube.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, you know, he's always in like the corner of his closet. He's like this like close to his face every single time he does a video. He's like, he's commented on my videos before, and he was like, you know, you are like attacking the Orthodox Church or something. So I looked into him. I'm like, is this an actual archbishop? So it's like, I would love to have a debate with an archbishop, a real one. Dude was fake, and I'm like, oh, dude, you're wasting my time.
There's actually an infamous fake Orthodox guy that's on TikTok. He just goes by ICXC Nika. That's all he goes by, like as his username. But his name is like Glory to Jesus Christ Forever or something like that. And he claims that he's a schema monk on TikTok apparently. And he does these lives all the time where he'll sit there and just like act like he's doing a whole liturgy. He bought the vestments, he's got a censer, he's got everything, like the whole shebang. And he's sitting there like doing like a liturgy for the people that are watching him. And people ask him who his bishop is, and he just never accepts it. And then he curses them. It's very funny to watch. He literally he will literally do the sign of the cross to people and say, curse be upon your whole family. It's insane. And like, wow. Yeah, and like he's a real person on TikTok that does this every single day. Like it's ridiculous.
You want to know what, like, so since the announcement, I've done a couple of different interviews, and you know, sometimes people will pray or like I'll cross myself. The most annoying comment I get is not like, you know, oh, you're a traitor to Protestantism or anything like that. It's the people that comment to me saying, you do know Orthodox cross themselves right to left, right? I'm like, you understand my camera's like mirrored.
Yeah,
This is my
exactly.
right side.
Oh
So
no,
when
you're
I'm
using
drop-
your left. Yeah, you're using your left hand to cross
oh
yourself,
my
dude.
goodness, dude, it is so annoying. And I'm just like, I don't know. It makes my brain cells shrivel up in my brain. I'm like, oh look, oh he's Catholic.
Did he
No,
just do that with
dude,
his
it's
left
mirrored.
hand?
This is my right side, man.
Yeah,
It's so
he's got
crazy.
it
You
mirrored.
can't comprehend like the tech.
Yeah, people actually think that he's a real priest too. So sad. Yeah, it's an epidemic on TikTok. Sadly, he blocked me because I tried to talk to him. But there's a couple people like that try to fake being a part of the One Holy Catholic Apostolic Church because they can't actually get into the church. They're gonna act like they're part of it anyway. That's kind of just the way that works, man. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't have the opportunity to physically go, and they LARP. It happens, right? I mean, people want to be a part of the truth. And some
Well,
people may not have access to it at the moment. Right?
Didn't that Roots of Orthodoxy YouTube channel get exposed for being a uniate?
Yeah, I mean, he came out like a while ago saying that he was actually a unit who's inquiring Orthodoxy, but this guy's had his channel for like years, right? And like and not to mention as well that the way that he makes his videos sometimes kind of seem like he's just giving like that neutral, like, oh yeah, what about the apostolic faith between Catholics and Orthodox? Like he says things like that, and you're just like, what did you say? We don't say that. We don't say that over here. I don't know what church, I don't know what parish you're a part of, but we don't say that. So people got pretty confused about him for a while. But yeah, no, he's an open unit himself. It's just it didn't really come to light very much until he did that video with the Orientals. That's when everything kind of came to light, because then he was basically kind of like supporting the Miaphysite, the non-Chalcedonians, who were literally just like talking crap about Chalcedon like for like 2 hours, right? And he's just sitting there going, oh yeah just like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I saw that. Well, that was on Roots of Faith though, wasn't it? That's like his
Roots
actual
of Faith,
like,
that's his actual page. Roots
he's
of
like surprised
Orthodoxy
I'm
is the page.
Catholic. That was the one he made when he made that announcement.
Yeah. Roots of Faith is basically his channel that he has specifically for the purpose of saying that he's kind of like an ecumenist in a way. Yeah. But like Roots of Orthodoxy was like his channel where he's like interviewing Orthodox priests all the time and like doing all of these different things. And he, like I said, like he's open uniate, but he doesn't display it like at all. Like he doesn't display his uniate nature. He acts like he is Orthodox, and sadly it does. I used to actually recommend him as an Orthodox channel. I used to do that. Like when I was early on to this kind of stuff and I had first got blessed for doing the apologetics in the first place, that was one of the first channels that I would recommend, because that was one of the first ones I watched was Roots of Orthodoxy. I was like, oh, you want to go watch really good interviews for priests. Now, granted, the interviews are good. They're not bad, right? But like it's the connotations behind where it came from. Right? Like that's when you're just like, wait a minute, but you're claiming to be Orthodox. There's a lot of people on the internet that try to do stuff like that. It sucks and it's sad, but people want to be part of the truth, man. That's the way it works.
Yeah, just join the church for real, though.
Yeah, just go to a church.
Yeah.
It's free. It's free. It's free. You can do it.
Right.
It just costs your soul, man, which is awesome. Right? It's awesome. I mean, you should watch his latest one with that Coptic subdeacon. I'm good. I don't really care to do that.
Look, this is new news to people in your chat. Wait, Roots of Orthodoxy isn't good? No, he's a Catholic.
No, he's Catholic. Bro.
He's not actually Orthodox.
Yeah. He said that an EO priest told him to go to a Coptic church because it's nearby.
That's a lie, dude.
That didn't happen, bro. Top 10 things that did not happen. Like, it's just not a thing, bro.
Right.
The priest would likely tell him to stop being spurgs on the internet. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree on that one for sure. I was kind of trying to figure out here because, so regarding intercession of the saints in general, right? Like how early on would you say that became something that you're like, okay, I can get on board with that?
Well, I mean, by the time I made the announcement, yeah, right away. But I mean,
you didn't agree with that prior?
No, not really. I mean, well, I mean, yeah, prior to that, well, before the instance that I mentioned in the announcement, right?
Okay.
So that was kind of the first attempt at intercession of the saints was then. After that point, I mean, after that experience, it was kind of just like, okay, well, this is real. You know, what do I have to argue with at that point? So No, I didn't really have too many issues with that
Yeah.
after that point.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, for me, like, because sometimes people ask me that question too. They're just like, how hard was it for you to understand intercession of the saints? I was like, I'm not going to lie to you, bro. The second that I agreed that Orthodoxy is the historical church, when I heard that they affirm intercession of the saints, I just submitted, bro. I'm going to be real
Yeah.
with you. I was just kind of like, you know what? If they got all of this other stuff right, surely they don't have one little demonic doctrine sitting in their view for no reason, right? Like, that's not a thing. Like, God protects his church. There's no way some like random doctrine that's supposedly demonic snuck its way in. Like, that's insane. And it scared
Yeah,
me.
I think I was the exact opposite. I had to like wade through everything. So you know
Yeah.
what I mean? I don't know, but that's just kind of how I am. Like there are certain things that
You
make
got really in the weeds though with the Protestant apologetics. I didn't, right? Like I just kind of did like super basic stuff. I debated atheists. That's all I did. I never
yeah.
debated anybody that was like connected to like the church or nothing like that. And then I had one debate with an Orthodox Christian one time where they were just like, they kind of ran like this epistemic thing on me, and I didn't know how to answer it. And then I was like, you know what? I might as well at least look into this. It doesn't seem too bad, right? Like, I mean, it's Orthodoxy and Roman Catholicism, because I looked at them both equally. I was kind of like, okay, well, I mean, let's see who's right, right? And came back, started reading church history, and I remember I read the Didache for the first time. I read that document and I learned about where it came from. And after I was done reading it, I looked at myself and I was like, I don't think I affirm any of that. Like, except for that there's one God. You know what I mean? Like, and I was just like, but this is like supposedly one of the very first documents ever about Christianity.
Right.
Like, I don't know what to do anymore. Like,
Yeah.
that broke my world, completely broke my world when I started reading church history, like immediately. I was like Pentecostal. So like, it was really easy for me to not see my view in the fathers, like really easy.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I could certainly see that, especially with the Pentecostal context. For me, I was more like, well, I'm going to reform my church, you know, so whatever I find that I need to adjust, I'll try to adjust to make it more in line with the church fathers, but you can't reform apostolic succession back into your church. So
No, not
it was
possible.
it was a wasted I don't want to say it was a wasted effort. It was an experience of growth, certainly. But it ultimately at the end of the day it would have been futile because you can't reform apostolic succession back into your church. I remember when I was being ordained, that was one of the questions that I was talking to my senior pastor about, because we have a debate culture at my old church. We would debate about things a lot, and you know, because it was like, you know, the senior pastor was like my best friend at the time, still very good friends with him. And you know, I would, you know, we'd have meetings or whatever. We'd do like men's Bible study and we just go back and forth on certain things. It'd be like, no, baptism saves. Like, oh no, it's a symbol or whatever. You know, we'd like do that kind of thing. And I remember when I was being ordained, before I was ordained, I said, I believe, you know, that communion is a means of grace, and if you don't want to ordain me, don't ordain me. But that's my view. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to submit saying it's a symbol, because I don't believe that. So
Yeah.
he ordained me anyway. But in my ordination, I was like, I had this thought about apostolic succession, like a little grain of it, like the kind of beginning of it. And but I think my conscience was assuaged because one of the individuals in my ordination ceremony was somebody who was ordained as an Anglican priest with Anglican orders. So I was like,
Oh,
well, there you go. I have something. I'm like, even if I were to take that train of thought to its logical conclusion, it's like, well, I can kind of like assuage my conscience a little bit because, you know, then it would be somewhat valid because I have, you know, the Anglican orders piece there. But ultimately, that's a wrong way to think. But I think when your worldview is being challenged, a lot of people do look for those little things that can make them like, oh, well, you know, I don't actually have to take that to its logical conclusion then. And I do feel like that's where Protestant apologetics goes quite a bit. You don't quite recognize it until after the fact because hindsight's 2020. But when you look at like a lot of the different Protestant apologetics, it's typically like, okay, well, we have this like minority view in history. So if one person stated it this way, I can hand wave any other citations because I could say there were disagreements in church history. Just like this guy in the comments is doing right now, Armageddon News. He was like, people disagree in church history. That because of that, I can just kind of pick and choose whatever I want to believe.
yeah,
So
man.
That's an extremely kind of, I mean, well, first off, it's
Picnic basket Christianity, man.
Yeah, it's you're making Christianity subjective, basically. But taking disagreements in church history with like one-off guy versus the consensus of the church fathers is not an intellectually honest way to go about things. That would be like me saying, well, this one French scholar agrees with my view. That makes all the other scholars wrong, like the Subtuum Praesidium example. Or I could say Hans Forster, well, he said it's an 8th century innovation. And all these other guys say it's 250 AD. Well, guess what? We've got recent archaeological evidence that proves Hans Forster wrong and shows that this was used liturgically in the 5th century. So, I mean, you can pick and choose your French scholarship or pick and choose your random church father citation that you're probably reading out of context, by the way, to assuage your conscience. But at the end of the day, if you were to really allow yourself to take that line of reasoning to its logical conclusion, you're not going to come away with Protestantism. It's just not going to happen. I mean, for some people, they might be able to like, I don't know, soften their conscience enough where they're able to stay in their institution. But I think it's typically, it's in opposition to the information to the contrary. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it does. I agree with you. Because that was like the biggest problem for me was that when I started looking into the church history in any sense, like I couldn't wrap my mind around any of the things that I was serious about. Like, because I was big about sola scriptura. I was big about like all of just like the whole, like, oh, it's interpretation. You know, I get interpretation from the Holy Spirit. Cause I was like Pentecostal, like non-denominational styles. Like, so like interpretations from God, right? It's just flying off the page and I'm just getting it. Right. And if I'm not getting it, then I don't have the Holy Spirit. Right. So like that kind of stuff. And so it was, after seeing, of course, that like there wasn't pretty much anybody that taught a similar doctrine in pretty much any sense, it scared me. It scared me really bad because I didn't even honestly really think about the older churches at first. I actually just like questioned my whole faith. Like I was just like, I'm not even doing this right. Right. Like how do I know that the old way is even right? And it scared me and almost messed up my faith really bad. But, you know, thankfully, after I started studying, I realized pretty quickly that Orthodoxy was the way. And then I started going to liturgy, simple as that. And then after they told me about all these things that they affirm, I was just like, okay. I was like, I submit to it, man. like if that's the case, then I just kind of fell into it. And then I started studying it and understanding it, I guess, as to like argumentation for why we affirm certain doctrines and whatnot. It was hard at first though, but like, especially like family stuff, man, like that's kind of like leads into my next question, you know, like with friends and everybody around me, like I got disowned by like some people that I knew, like straight up just for like saying, I'm going to go to an Orthodox church. They're just like, that's demonic. What? Like, are you serious? Like, oh, you're gonna fall into sin and prelest and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, because I had a lot of people that I knew that were kind of into that. And how did that kind of go for you? Like when you kind of made that announcement, did you get a lot of backlash from your community or?
In person, not so much.
That's good, at least.
Yeah, in person, not so much. I think that's just because most of the people didn't really know what it is, or maybe they're not like super studied. Like within my family's not super religious. It's me. Now I came to the faith. My sister came to the faith shortly after, or maybe a couple of years after me. My dad says he's a Christian, but he doesn't attend church. So it's kind of like that type of situation. So within my family, not too much.
I gave you just the thumbs up, like, cool, man.
Yeah, cool, dude.
Yeah.
You know, when I come and visit, maybe I'll check out a liturgy with you, kind of deal. You know what I mean?
My parents were pretty much the same way because my parents aren't religious. So they were kind of just like, I was like, I'm becoming Orthodox. And they're just like, what's that? And I'm like, really old Christianity. And they're like, oh, cool.
Yeah, cool,
like,
dude. Pretty much. At like my local church level, I mean, the way that I handled it, I think really helped because I was like, you know, talking to my senior pastor ahead of time. We went out to get lunch and I told him what's up and gave him some intellectual reasons, gave him some things to chew on. He said, well, we'll have to agree to disagree. And we got to the point where he was like, if you feel like the Holy Spirit's calling you in another direction, then don't grieve the Holy Spirit. Like you have to be obedient to God. He's like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're right. You know, so go ahead and do that. And I said, okay, well, if there's anything you need help with, he was like, obviously I'm heartbroken, I'd love to, keep you, but I told him, I said, if there's anything you need, like, I'm still here. I'm still local, dude. So like, you need me to help with like tech stuff or whatever, I can still lend a hand. No big deal. You guys are my friends.
Okay.
So that was really good. I didn't really have too much pushback on that. Or at least backlash. I think more it was more my apologetics colleagues that were really hurt. Obviously, because they have a lot invested in keeping people Protestant. And it was like the friend enemy distinction swapped immediately. Now you are the enemy. I got a ton of response videos, like a massive amount. I thought, I was liking them all. I kind of liked it. Like I was like, okay, I've always gotten response videos. The ones that sucked though, the ones that actually kind of got me a little frustrated was Anglican Aesthetics, because he was super friendly to me, and then he did like the most snaky thing like you could have possibly done. He ignored like every single logical reason. And he was like, he smelled his way into Orthodoxy, or like,
Oh yeah.
what did he say?
I saw that picture.
He said, the Theotokos says you're burning in hell because of a smell or something. It's through the smell of incense.
Yeah, he said,
So
he said like the Theotokos
is
is telling me through incest that you're going to go to incense that you're going to burn in hell now. Cleve.
Basically. Yeah. So I was
that
upset
picture.
at that, because I actually like Sean Luke. Yeah. And, we were like, I've had him on the show multiple times, but it was like day one, like, boom, you're blasting me day one like that, dude. And that's not the actual case, and the arguments. So I don't know. That one frustrated me, but the rest of them were kind of like, eh. Oh, I guess the only other one that frustrated me was the barely Protestant one, because when the premiere was going on, he had texted me and he was like, "You misrepresented the ACNA. They are not the most conservative Anglican denomination." I'm like, "They're not? Like, what do you think it is?" He's like, "The Continuum." I'm like, "Oh, well, I was talking about, as far as large denominations, not like splinter breakoffs. Like, I'm sure there's like, different breakoffs or whatever." He's like, "No, it's actually pretty large, et cetera, whatever." Instead of like allowing me to like correct it or anything, he went and immediately blasted me on social media, posted like 20 posts in a row, made a video, started partnering with Roman Catholics to attack my character. He made a big video that was like, "Cleve lied to all of you. He's a scumbag," or whatever. I got people texting me. I was like, "What is going on with this guy? Is he okay?" Like, he's like having a mental breakdown. And I'm like, I have no idea what's going on, dude. I even said in a live stream, I was like, "Hey, dude, if I offended you, I'm sorry." But I think where it all stems from, because the critique that I made in my announcement video on Orthodox Ethos was that I did not want to become Anglican. First off, because they endlessly, well, I think the argument that I made there was they ordain women, right? And even
case closed.
The most conservative, case closed, basically. The Continuum doesn't do that. But for me, I'm looking at, well, what's the track record of Anglican denominations, right? They're conservative for a little bit of time, and then they become
eventually liberalize
like crazy. So like the ACNA was the most conservative for a long time. Then they went super liberal. Now you have bishops ordaining their own wife. He's like, do you submit to the authority of do you promise to submit to the authority of the bishop? And she's like, like, "The bishop's my husband." Ha, ha, ha. Like that kind of stuff. You just see the Archbishop of Canterbury is now a woman that supports, she's like pro unaliving babies, all sorts of crazy stuff. So, there was no way that I was going to become Anglican. Also, I think they're like loosely theologically bound together. Like the 39 articles is not extensive enough to really hold together coherent theology in toto. If you were to look at the diversity of Anglican beliefs, I've spoken to some that I've mentioned that said that they are Anglican because they have the freedom to accept that annihilationism is true. So I don't think the via media argument, we're the middle way, which is basically just you can be whatever you want to be and we can have like kind of the veneer of high churchism. That's not convincing to me. And I think a lot of the Anglicans understand the weakness of their position, understand that it's inevitable that their institution will be liberalized and continue to fracture, which is why there were a lot of reactions that were extremely hostile, especially from the Anglicans, because they're insecure in their position. But I think that also extends to many of the people who are making response videos. Like Jordan Cooper made a response video before the premiere even aired. It was before the premiere, like, and he was saying, "Oh, he's a grifter. He's he's immoral or whatever." I'm like, dude, you were gonna have me on your show. What do you mean? When were these objections when you were gonna collaborate with me? So the reaction online was wild and insane. I will say this though, there were two Protestant figures that were super cool. They disagree completely with my decision, but they at least like handled it relatively okay. Ruslan, he's a real one. Gavin Ortland, cool. He's a real one. So Gavin texted me and he was like, "Hey man, love you, dude. If you ever want to talk, I'm here for you." I'm like, I appreciate that, man. You know what I mean? Like that's like way better than
99% of the internet.
You're gonna burn because you're adding,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Actually, I prayed to God today and he actually told me that you're going to hell now. So yeah. I'd probably stop doing that.
Yeah, actually, I cursed you with the sign of the cross.
Exactly. Yeah, I curse you. I curse you, your whole family, and your cow. But
oh, dude. So I got a phone call from one of my buddies who was Anglican, and he was like, "Hey, bro, just checking up on you. Just want to make sure everything's okay. Oh, so why did you decide to go Orthodox? Why did you? What's going on with that?" I'm giving him like in-depth intellectual things. He's like ignoring half of it. He's like, "Oh, well, thank you, because me and like 5 other buddies are going to be making a response video to your conversion. I just wanted to find out your side." It's like just complete snake in the grass stuff.
Wow.
Like I'm just checking on you, buddy. I just want to see how you are. We're gonna call you out and say you're an apostate.
You're not possessed.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy, man.
All right, so I have a couple questions in here, and then we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. So they'll be kind of just like quick fire things, just like general response, nothing crazy. They're not even really that big. So, but I do want to get through these because, that I did offer that to the chat and they were curious. They have some of these questions answered. So Zonkia says, what is your best go-to argument for arguing against like just general Protestantism? What are your thoughts on the common stuff like the canon argument?
I'm not answering part 2. People get mad at me when I do that.
I watched the stream with Jim Bob yesterday. I know that you're not a fan of the canon argument.
Dude, they get mad. So I don't know. Like the canon argument, I think is an idol for some people. Like it's like, that's what convinced me, dude. If you say it's bad, that makes me retarded. Like, I don't know. That's kind of like, I think that's the reaction. Yeah. So like, what do you think of the canon argument? I'm not a fan of it. If you like it, that's good. I think I will say this about the canon argument. Okay. It's a good opener in a conversation with an evangelical. I don't think it goes to, if you take it to its logical conclusion, I don't think it is the best argument, but I'll say this. It is an acceptable opening argument. It's very easy to use. It's copy paste done, and you can use it against evangelicals to get them to think about church authority and things like that. At the higher level debates, it's probably not going to work so well. But granted, I don't know a single Protestant that used the same arguments that I used. So you could probably use it unless they go back and watch my old videos and adopt my arguments.
Okay. And then I guess like the first part, then like what would you say the best argument is that you do know of?
Against the Protestants? I mean, the sola scriptura one that I was from epistemology.
Okay. Yeah, you did say that earlier. So that makes sense. Okay, cool. And I have a devil's advocate here for some reason. If we're still using our individual understanding to come to orthodoxy as the truth, what differentiates us from sola scriptura Christians and their personal interpretation?
Well, it's different. You can have your own personal understanding or use your individual faculties to make the decision, but everybody is basing, unless you're like a radical skeptic and you don't believe there's any objective truths, you do in some degree have to base your truth statements on something objective, something solid. So whether that's going to be the scriptures, you're using that as your epistemological basis, or it's going to be the consensus of the fathers, the ecumenical councils, and the normative authority of the church, you're using your individual faculties to choose which of those you are submitting to, which framework. So as a Protestant, you're submitting to the one framework, right? You're submitting to the sola scriptura framework. We would just say that that framework of epistemology is fragmented. The other, you can actually come to objective conclusions. So that's the difference. Yeah, we would say that you still use your faculties to come to the determination of which one is correct. But mean that you're not using them as a basis for your epistemology.
Okay, cool. Also answering the super chat as well here. I'll go ahead and just address this real quick. Reading Metropolitan Gregory's How to Live a Holy Life as a part of Inquirer class, it talks about offering alms for salvation of the dead. Something you got to realize here, Frog, thank you for the $5, by the way, is that alms is not literally just giving money or providing possessions. Alms literally is also just offering prayers as well in a general sense, because alms is offering something, whether that be prayers or whether that be something physical, possessions, anything like that. So even if it says that there's something that we possibly will do, like offering alms for the salvation of the dead, that could simply just be interpreted as praying for those who are ascending the divine ladder, right? Something like that. Somebody who is may not be in Abraham's bosom in the current state, right? Praying for the dead. Right. So there is a point where it's not literally saying like, if you pay the priest $10, he'll get your freaking friend out of purgatory. That's not what they're saying. I promise.
Right.
Let me go ahead here. Patrick Theophan Barnes says, what was your experience with the Jesus prayer coming into the church?
I had been doing it as a Protestant. So I guess maybe it takes on a new meaning, because I think the real thing is, as somebody who is entering into the church, not being scrupulous about it. Because I've got friends of mine when they're inquiring, it's like, oh, I've got to do the Jesus prayer like 1,000 times or something. Like I'm reading the Ladder of Divine Ascent. I've got to do it like immediately. Like that's a pitfall you can fall into. But I think using it medicinally is good. Like like my thoughts are going somewhere I don't like. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, sinner. I want to focus on Christ right now in this moment. Or I need strength. I feel like I'm being tempted to lash out in anger. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, sinner. You know what I mean? I'm not at this moment. Obviously, I'm not like I've got to climb the ladder of ascent. I've got to become like this like this monk or something right now. Like,
yeah, I got to become this based monk.
Right. It's more like I'm taking my vitamins. You know what I mean? I'm trying to become healthy. That's where I'm at.
Awesome, man. That was a good answer for that. And then last thing, and then we're going to go ahead and start calling it here because it's dinner time over for me. I don't know about you, but the last thing that I have is, what advice would you give to any Protestant who is curious about Orthodoxy, and maybe like whether it be intellectual or anything like that?
Advice to somebody that's, well, I mean, I guess I would just say
that
find
may be
a priest
looking
and
into
ask
it,
him.
but haven't decided yet.
Yeah, find a priest and ask him. It's different for everybody though. So like, I mean, people's objections are going to be different. Obviously, Armageddon News, that guy's objections are about eschatology, right? And it's the one thing, and he's saying he agrees with everything in Orthodoxy except for amillennialism, which I don't understand, because the consensus of church history is amillennial eschatology. I mean, you might be able to find one or two citations that are like post-mill or something, but it's not the norm. Yeah, the one thing. Yeah, there you go. So then just submit yourself to the church. I mean, if it's
your one gripe is not worth it, Armageddon.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, if you are convinced, you say you're convinced of everything in Orthodoxy except for this one thing, that means you accept that the Orthodox Church is the church that Christ established. So why would you let your own understanding of this one subject keep you from Christ's church and from the Eucharist?
Oh, because my eschatology view is based, of course.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I'm being straightforward with you, Armageddon. But I think for a lot of different people, they're in a similar position. They have one aspect of theology that is really holding. They're not keeping you out, man.
That's not happening.
That's not happening.
That's not happening.
Continue to go even with your doubts. I mean, obviously, you don't want to be like standing up in the middle of the liturgy. It's post-mill. It's post-mill, dude.
I was in your raid.
Yeah. No. Oh. He said, "Oh yes." But anyway, advice for people that are inquiring: speak to a priest. I mean, that's the best thing that you can do. Go and attend the divine liturgy. Experience that. If you would like, I mean, if you have issues with intercession of the saints, I would say maybe look at the same kind of loophole that I did. You say, well, as a Protestant, I don't believe. Well, as a Protestant, I believe the saints are alive in heaven. They're praying for us, but I just don't believe I should pray to them. Well, ask God to ask the saints to pray for you. Ask for the intercession of the Theotokos to soften your heart.
Yeah.
I think for some people, the most simple advice is honestly the truest. Go and see. And if you're curious, if you're really like theologically grappling with some of the stuff, then engage with people like Bryce, engage with people like Jay, engage with people like, so on and so forth, and ask your questions. And then, also ask your priest as well.
Yeah. Thank you. That was a good answer. So that's pretty much all I had. I just wanted to kind of get something going generally with you, because I want to start like talking to you a little bit more, because you're pretty cool to talk to. So I wanted to do some kind of like this introductory, like, hey, let's do a stream together, talk about, the news, because it's pretty awesome that's happening and whatnot, and then get a little bit into, church stuff. And actually ended up working out really well. Sadly, because I kind of didn't announce this prior to starting the stream, but chat, just so you're aware, I understand, for whoever may mention this, my voice is completely screwed up right now. I was sick over the weekend, so my voice probably sounds like I just woke up or that I'm dying. I promise neither of those things happened. I got home from work and I was fine. But yeah, man, I appreciate being able to do this stream with you. That was an absolute blessing, especially just for anybody who may watch this in the future and see what we talked about and the questions and whatnot. It might be able to help them kind of understand where you're coming from a little bit better.
Sure.
Because like, there's some people that may still be kind of confused, even though I don't know how they could possibly still be confused about your thing. I mean, you've had to do so many interviews over the past several weeks, man. I can't even imagine somebody still doesn't understand yet about like why you had to do what you had to do. But
right.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah. I mean, just a heads up though, just so you know, over probably about the next year until I'm done with the catechumen process, I probably won't be doing any debates. So
that makes sense.
I'm holding off on that. The framework for my channel going forward is I'll be doing interviews with people who are qualified, that have a blessing to teach, etc. And then I'll have them come on and answer questions. The stuff that I'll be doing, like myself, we'll be basically talking about my experience, maybe some of the reflections that I had in Protestantism, and some of the guidance I got from a priest was maybe some videos debunking my old stuff, like Cleave versus Cleave, and one of the ones that I want to do soon will be like I had the former Orthodox priest, now LCMS pastor, on my show, Joshua Shuping. So I'm going to go back through and I'll probably either do a live stream or a video debunking the arguments that we made in those videos. So that'll probably be the first one I do, and then I'll go through other topics. So
awesome.
That's kind of the perspective that I'm coming from, because I don't want to present myself as like some sort of, I'm an Orthodox authority now that I've made this decision. Like that's not the case. I'm just a dude that's interested in Orthodoxy, and I'm going to be entering into the church and entering into the catechumenate. So I want to be
Word of God.
I want to try to set a decent model for people, I think. You know what I mean? Like I don't have to come out and immediately be the debate bro day one.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. That's not going to be very fun.
Right.
For the image, because there's a lot of people that do that, and it's one of the sicknesses in the church.
Well,
everybody thinking they need to debate.
It works for some people, like Luigi did it, and he actually did pretty well in his debates. But I think I think that is one of the gripes that I've heard from people is people, once they become interested in Orthodoxy or they become a catechumen or something, they become like debate bros. So I want to be obedient. I want to display what a good way forward can look like, like the middle path, which is, continuing to do my thing. This was the guidance of a priest. I'm being obedient to what they have told me to do. So
sweet, man. Well, that's awesome. I appreciate this, but I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the screen ending. See you guys later, man. Good stream.